3. Hello, everyone. I am Christy Shaw, and this is TAP, the audacity to pivot. So, about a week or so ago, I sent out a notice that we were going to be embarking on a brand new podcast, something that I believe is going to have a tremendous impact, or at least that is what we are striving for. So, on this, our first episode, I am talking with my friend, cohort, and co-host, Jasmine Kirby. Jasmine is a PhD candidate, and she has her master's in industrial organizational psychology. So she's focused and very passionate about the plight of women, especially those of a certain age in the workplace that are becoming increasingly unemployed, underemployed, and dissatisfied with the work that they are doing. So Jasmine's contribution to the larger ecosystem of social change is to assist and encourage and work with women in their efforts to cultivate the work and careers they rightly deserve. And one of the things that I so admire and love about Jasmine is that she's not shy. And when it comes to speaking about the truth, when we may be in denial about the reality, that we can oftentimes be the agent of our own adverse outcomes also in the workplace. So Jasmine and I share that passion. And though Jasmine is laser focused on the behavioral constructs, e.g. attitudes, relationships, and leadership development of work, as well as how those negative employment trends are adversely impacting women, especially older women worldwide, right? So I focus more on the creative and how creativity that often gets consumed by the world of work, and the necessity to work and to be a provider, how that may be the very root to how we can actually, and maybe how we should pivot. Because I believe the world of work has a shelf life. Not sure that necessarily aligns with Jasmine's thoughts, but I do. I believe that the workplace has a shelf life, and it is not necessarily associated with retirement. I think at some point, we have to turn these negative trends that we see, that we need to be introspective and turn those trends into opportunities to actually pivot towards another rendition of ourselves. Hence the title of the podcast. So tap into another rendition of you. So before I turn the mic over to Jasmine, I want to just share briefly how I met her. We met virtually via one of our PhD courses. And aside from immediately picking up that Jasmine was likely to be the smartest person in the class, I detected a wonderful spirit from her, which I felt was kindred in some way. So I connected with her on a social media platform, and we would only chat or message. It was rare that we would chat or message, but I always felt a sense of community because of Jasmine, if that really makes sense. I felt this sense of belonging with her. So I paid close attention to Jasmine, and because, as I mentioned, she was the smart one in the class, but recently she started posting articles and posts that spoke precisely to my dissertation concept. So I became further intrigued and consumed with excitement about the focus that she was working towards. So that said, virtual intermittent interaction turned into a phone call, and that phone call turned into a FaceTime meeting, and that FaceTime meeting turned into several other phone calls. And so here we are today. But I will tell you, during those sessions, I certainly did, that we have so much in common. I felt a partnership with her was in some way destined, because there was, as I mentioned, there was this kindred spirit with her. So she's by far one of the most energetic, positive forces I know. Hands down. And what I recognize in Jasmine is that she's an overcomer. She continues to show up for life and speaks life when would otherwise have her remain silent. And that's spirit. That's the spirit that I recognized in our classroom. It is something that was confirmed once we started talking on the phone. And it is, in fact, the very spirit that we have in common. So, that said, welcome, Jasmine.
Hello, and thank you for having me. Thank you for having just a great idea and the tenacity to help us get together and work together on this. I am very excited about it. One of the things that I found kindred about you, and it is hard for me to find, sometimes, is another who is willing to not settle for the status quo. There's a time and a place where you sort of have to raise your hand and say, is this the right thing that we should be doing? Is this how this should go? Mm-hmm. And sometimes those of us who do that, we may feel like you're in a room or on the bus alone. So when I met Christy, I was like, there's another who has the courage and intestinal fortitude to sort of take on some of these social issues that still remain either misunderstood or little understood or just unmentionable. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited about this opportunity and this platform to have a place to do that, a place for us to share and for people to share back with us really about the world of work.
Okay.
It's dichotomous and paradoxical for me. To me, it's like these are the best of times in the world of work. And in some ways, it's like, oh, dear, we could do so much better, mm-hmm. right? With some of like the isms. Ageism is one of my biggies, right? But yes. We know we're still working toward gender equality and many other things. So I'm really looking forward to this opportunity to just partner and collaborate where we can. I want to live in a world where, Monday should not be the most dreaded day of the week.
Okay, I agree. I definitely agree with that. So
Monday shouldn't be the most dreaded day of the week, and I want to live in a world where people who want to be self-employed, that they could do that, and those who want to work for a company could do that. But how do we do this on our terms and where there's just more joy about it? So sometimes it is having the audacity to pivot from where you are.
Okay.
So I was excited at this opportunity to be able to speak life into that and be a part of that. So once again, many, many, many thanks for helping us to get together and getting us to today. So,
well, thank you. Thank you. And I am definitely excited. And you touched on something because one of the things that I'd like to put on your radar is something that maybe we can speak to, maybe today or at a later time. But for me, I started work as a very young girl because I was a young mom. So I started work because I had to provide for a child, but I did not have the opportunity or the option to actually tap into the fact that there was another rendition of me, that I am in fact a creative, caught up at that time in the perpetual cycle and necessity to provide, therefore, in the organizational setting. And I think that today, in the midst of this pandemic, what is happening is that people are finding that because work has shifted, that there are other renditions of who they are and what they do and their giftings and how they can parlay that into a different type of lifestyle and perhaps quality of life. So that's something that I just wanted to kind of put on your radar. Maybe at some point we can even touch on that some more. But Here's what I found interesting recently. There was an article that was published, Jasmine, for the Wall Street Journal, and the title was "COVID Shrinks the Labor Market, Pushing Out Women and Baby Boomers." And so my question for you is why women and why baby boomers?
And being both a woman
yes.
and a baby boomer, I looked it up. Right? To get past something that I think intuitively that I thought that I was seeing. So what's interesting is that women actually represent 50% of the workforce overall. However, we're 55% of the employees who are losing their jobs due to COVID-19. So you look at that and you go, okay, so there really is something there. So you take a deeper dive. Some are actually really referring to this as a she-session versus a recession. It's the industries. So if you look at the industries that employ more women than men, you're talking about hospitality and tourism, healthcare, leisure. The majority of the employees in these sectors are women. So what got hit? Your cruises, your holiday here, hotels, right? Where you see many women working, you can start to see how the percentage of women would be disproportionate in relation to how we stack up for as the number of people in the workforce. You can start to see it's the industries mattered. You say, well, as compared to what? Well, the recession that we saw 2007 through 2009, the industries that were primarily impacted there, or some that took a big hit, manufacturing and construction. Not saying that women are not in those industries. There are more men than women there. So during the recession of 2007 to 2009, we didn't, the number was different. This go around, it's women are taking a pretty big hit.
Okay. And that's interesting. Not only is it good that you have shared that perspective, because it just occurred to me as you were speaking. Now, I have a daughter, though obviously not in the age bracket, but certainly she's impacted because she owns a spa/studio. So she is definitely impacted by with COVID. So that's a different, that is in fact a different perspective as to how women over a certain age are being pushed out. On top of the other issues, we now have a pandemic on top of that. So that is in fact very, very interesting. Now, here's a thing that seemingly contradicts that very assessment, because now, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, women over 55 are the fastest growing age gender workforce category. Like what? I'm confused. 3.6 million over 55 are said to be added to the U.S. workforce by 2026. And which that number is in contrast to the number of men over 55 working, is projected to decline by 3%. So what are your thoughts on that? Who are these women? And I am very, very intentional, Jasmine, by asking, who are these women? Are these women already on the fast track? Have they already been filtered through this tunnel of succession that will feed these statistics? What is that? Because if that is the case, then that would leave someone like me out still, not to mention that I'll be a much older woman by 2026. So
those are all good points, and it's interesting. So I tried to dig a little. to see the some studies around what made up the demographic, right? So we do know, and it has been for a while, who's been outpacing on higher education,